Growing up, I always knew my brother was different. I wasn't supposed to know, but I did. It wasn't so much a secret as it was a deep family shame. My parents refused to acknowledge it, and as a result, he never received the help he so desperately needed. But the full extent of his deviancy didn't become apparent until his early teens. A secret of which I've kept from everyone, even my brother. If he knew that I knew, I'm not sure what would happen. It was an accident. That's how it all began. We were playing around in my mom's study, and I knocked over one of her many porcelain figures. A cute Dalmatian puppy, the fragile thing breaking into dozens of unrecognizable pieces as it hit the hardware floor. My brother stared at the broken mess for minutes before Mom stormed in and started yelling. My brother didn't flinch though, just stood in silence as she cleaned up, his eyes never leaving the ominous shards. A few days later, our neighbor, Miss Zielinski, reported her dog Maja missing. She was a precious Dalmatian, little over a year old. They found pieces of her for days, hacked violently into fleshy bits. A heinous act of pure cruelty, they called it. And I immediately knew it was my brother. I suppose I still wanted to test my hypothesis, though. So a week later, I accidentally broke another figurine, this time depicting a plump little boy. I ignored my mom's scolding, keeping my gaze locked on my brother. He didn't move an inch, just stared at the headless figurine on the floor. My mom left the study after that incident. A few days later, Billy O'Donnell disappeared. 10 years old, freckled, a bit on the heavy side. They found his body 5 days later. It took another 2 before they located his head. The expression frozen on his face was one of an unimaginable pain and fear. I knew then for sure what my brother was, and I swore to myself to keep it a secret, to keep him safe. I would become the help he always needed. He happens upon broken remains of porcelain figures all through his teenage years. A young, beautiful woman, a dapper, middle-aged man sporting a broad-brimmed hat, a frowny-faced old lady cradling a cat, a handsome fellow in a sparkling red jacket. Some turned up in tiny pieces, others were never found. He can never know that I know, though. Know that I'm the one who breaks them. Know that I deliberately leave them where he can find them. Know that I paint the figurines myself. Want to resemble the slutty cashier that kept flirting with my husband. Want to resemble my pervert of bars. Want to resemble the horrid old hag that lets her cat piss on my property. The last one to resemble my cheating asshole of a husband. Don't worry, they won't be missed. They're all just broken porcelain figures now. Having trouble sleeping, Anna? Anna turned in her bed to see her dad at her door. Yes, Daddy, I had a bad dream. Would you tell me a story to help me go back to sleep? Sure, baby girl. But you have to keep your eyes closed, okay? It's late, and I have work tomorrow, so we both need to get our rest. Yes, sir. Thanks, Daddy. Of course, sweet girl. Okay, let's see. Once upon a time, there was a beautiful princess, and I began to imagine the story her father was weaving in her head. Her mind was filled with images of princesses and knights, fairies and wizards, and of course, Prince Charming. Her father's comforting voice slowly faded as she began to drift to sleep, and suddenly, the story paused and she heard her father stand up. Baby, give me 1 second. I need to run to the restroom real quick, and then I'll continue the story. Okay, Daddy. Eyes closed now. You need to try to sleep, sweet girl. I know, Daddy, I will. A few moments passed, and Anna started to hear her father's footsteps coming back up the stairs, entering her room and sitting down at her side again. She kept her eyes closed, like her father asked her to, and waited patiently for the story to continue. All right, where were we? The princess was so sad because her prince had suddenly been turned into an ugly frog. The story began again, but Anna wasn't imagining the story her father was telling her anymore. Her mind was focused on something else, an odd feeling, something that seemed right. She didn't feel comforted or safe any longer. She adjusted herself in her bed to allow her eyes to open a slither unnoticed. Anna trembled. Whoever it was who was telling her a story was not her daddy. It was somebody else. He had a very different voice than her father's, and an axe covered in blood resting in his lap. Like all things, it started with a vague notion, a niche in the back of my mind that needs scratching. Yes, I started small, of course. And just a couple of participants to begin with. A pilot, if you will. A way to ensure the concept had merit. I'd built a modest set near the river. And we spent a day or two ironing out the details, setting up the cameras and the like, for going live with the first show. What's that? Oh no, it wasn't a success by any means. But when I reviewed the tapes, I knew this could go big, and I mean really big. Scaling up wasn't easy, of course, for reasons I suppose are obvious by now. I wanted 14 rooms in total. I believe I spent a month or two scouting for suitable locations before I found the Penthouse Farm. Yeah, you know the place. Anyway, the first official episode aired a few months after that. There were 5 participants in total, but none of them made it past the 3rd room. I played with the idea of bending the rules slightly, but that'd be a betrayal against the core values of the show. The values? Fairly straightforward, I'd say. It goes integrity, honesty, quality, fun. Episode 2 is a resounding success, though, and really helped the show get off its feet. 10 participants in total, and hours of amazing performances, zesty one-liners, and wonderful drama of a mind-blowing twist at the end. Oh, definitely. I can walk you through the game step by step. I suppose it can seem rather complicated, but in its essence, it is alarmingly simple. You start by replacing the contestants in the first room with the briefing room. Here, they will learn all they need to know, and it is now up to each contestant to make the sacrifices needed to enter the next room. This will go on until they've all either made it to the final room or given up. Come again. It's the sacrifices. With all you know, all you found. I would have thought that you'd figure that out by now, detective. They have to carve off a body part, of course. They're given a bread knife at the briefing room. I did state in the rules. There are 12 body parts you can part with. Hand, lower arm, upper arm, foot, lower leg, upper leg. Upon departure, you move on to your next room. If you fail, you're out of the game. No, nothing like that. We just shoot them. We're not savages, sir. The winner? Well, they would be little but a rolling torso when they make it into the final room, but no one ever has. Why? Because they need a free hand to carve off whatever body part is next. But how do you carve off the hand that's doing the carving? They always forget that part, and that's what makes it so much fun. My girlfriend moved out a few weeks ago. My cat's, Rook, was really close to her, and now that she's gone, I can tell he's a bit lonely, especially when I'm at work. I came home a few times to my curtains ripped up, or all the toilet paper in shreds. The last straw was when I came home after working late to find he clawed the size of a dinner plate into the side of a sofa. I decided to do something. I tried different toys, even catnip, but nothing worked. One night, while browsing Amazon, I saw a pet camera. It's a tiny camera that records your pet on a live feed so you can monitor the behavior while you're away. It even has an audio function so you can talk to them. Sounded silly, but hey, I love my fur dude, so I bought it. I got overnight shipping and installed it immediately. Decided to set it up in my bedroom as that's where Rook dwelled most. My first day at work, I think I checked that camera 3 times. When I spoke into the microphone, Rook seemed to be happier, and I noticed there was no destruction around the house either. By day 4, I figured I'd solve the problem of Rook. That leads me to right now. About 30 minutes ago, climbed in bed with Rook, ready to close my eyes, when my phone buzzed, a notification from my pet cam. I almost ignored it. Sure, I just triggered the thing, but opened it anyway. What I saw made my grip tighter on the phone. Instead of a video of myself in bed, I saw a man, tall, gangly, with pale skin and large eyes. He was moving into my room with exaggerated steps, like a sneaking cartoon character. He got right up to the lens, so I could almost smell his rotten breath. He smiled. I immediately paused the video, terrified. I looked at the spot where the man should have been standing, but there was no one there. I went into Amazon and found the pet cam, and read reviews hoping for some weird glitch. It had to be a joke, right? The first dozen reviews were pretty standard, but it was the last that caused me to bolt upright. The customer complained that the camera was on a time delay, sometimes as much as 15 minutes. I went back to the video and pressed play with shaking fingers. I watched in horror as the man slithered under my bed, giving the camera a wink before disappearing into the darkness. Then I saw myself enter the room, climb into bed before the video ended. Now I'm sitting in bed, knowing he's under it. Could call the police, but I doubt I'd have time. So please, do yourself a favor and read the reviews. It's amazing how the human mind works. It can see something that you were completely unaware of, and suddenly you'll be aware of it. And take a deep breath. Go on, nobody's judging. Good. Now, you notice how you're suddenly aware of your breathing pattern. Now, close your eyes for 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Good. Now, you notice you're aware of how much you're blinking. It's all because of how human brains work. They put aside tasks you can automatically complete, such as breathing and blinking. So you focus on more important tasks. The autonomous tasks go directly to your subconscious. But what happens when you become aware of tasks you didn't want to be conscious of? Like how you want to recognize your breathing pattern, it starts to become harder to breathe. Or how when you open your eyes after having them closed for a period of time, it becomes distracting to manage your blinking. If you suddenly become aware of the digestion of food, and now that you're aware, you must control it, and then you can't focus on anything else. Or you become aware of every muscle movement in your entire body, then you'd be distracted for quite a while. If you became aware of every bug, every mite, and every speck that crawls around on your flesh. or if you felt the blood flowing through your veins and capillaries, and you had to control the flow. Imagine doing every one of those things at once. Notice how you're getting a bit overwhelmed. That's what I have to do for you. Every single day. Control your blinking. I control your breathing. I move the blood through your veins. That voice inside your head that you can't hear. The heartbeat next to your ribcage you never notice. I control everything you aren't aware of. I am your subconscious. And now that you're aware of everything I have to do, it's your turn to do the work. It all started when I was younger. I'd watch my sister nap, and suddenly a scene would snap before my eyes of a skeletal frame resting on the blanket she'd precariously placed on our lawn for a picnic. Perfectly still, wasted away after choking on her tiny cucumber sandwiches. It was strange, at first, not really frightening. The visions would be a mere passing fancy, a split viewfinder capture in my mind's eye. I never jolted out of them or became upset. Even after only the first instance, something within me knew this is just a part of me. They got worse as I got older, but as I got older, I started to see them as intrusive thoughts. My visions of my parents strewn across the motorway, guts protruding from the bodies amongst the flaming metal pieces of our car, were easily passed off as such. Even though if Mother had averted her gaze from the traffic for just a moment, my vision could have become a reality. I don't mind them so much these days. I've grown to enjoy them. It's like a constant TV show playing in my head, but appears right in front of my eyes. That was, until the vision showed you, falling down the stairs after I kissed you goodbye for the day in our bedroom. I saw the misstep, the panic in your face, as you disappeared from the view down the multiple steps to the landing. Only this time, when I blinked, nothing changed. You were still lying there and moving at the bottom of the stairs.